In which ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of a real media product?
The main idea for my music video was a teenage girl experiencing drugs for the first time.
This is a poignant issue in modern society. The lyric, "You're my first love," reflects how she's addicted to the drugs. Paralleled with her being on her own for the whole video, shows that she has shut herself out from society and people trying to help.
I wanted to create a music video that reflected modern media's trend of having videos which are more vibrant and visually exciting.
This convention is used in dubstep music to parallel the upbeat tone of the music. I use dubstep music, which is typically enjoyed at festivals. My idea of using Holly paint throughout came from the festival Hollyfest, where the audience throws paint over each other while listening to music. Therefore, using the holly in my music video would give the audience connotations of festivals and celebration. I got a lot of my inspiration from How Deep Is Your Love, which is a very effective juxtaposition with what's happening in the protagonist's head and what is happening in reality. I wanted to use this idea in my music video as we see how the drugs have affected my protagonist, not just in the physical side effects but also in the mental. Another very popular music video is Pillow Talk by Zayn, which uses visual effects throughout his music video to represent his feeling of love in an abstract way. I love how they use visual effects to try and explain something that words can't. Therefore, I try to do the same in my music video. However, in my music video you see the difference between reality and her experiencing the effect of the drugs. The use of Holly paint shows the difference between her reality and her on drugs, allowing the audience to see two different sides of her. Another modern feature in dubstep music video is the use of drawing animation on top of the footage. I have used this technique in a small extract of my film, however, I feel it is very effective. Justin Bieber's Where Are You Now uses this technique throughout the video, making very visually interesting music videos where each frame has a different drawing. In my music video, the use of crosses over the protagonist's eyes represent how she is disturbed. In olden day cartoons, crosses over the eyes would represent death. So this use of imagery in my video gives the audience connotations of darkness inside her. I feel like within my music video it represents typical conventions of a modern music video, however it does challenge some of the conventions as my protagonist is a teenager and in most music videos it is a young adult. This is used to highlight the issue of the prominence of drugs in teenagers' social life. How effective is the combination of your main product and ancillary texts? My main product and ancillary texts have the same theme running through them.
And that is the theme of disequilibrium in the protagonist. I really wanted to reflect that she is not in a good place, and this is reflected in the way that my digipack and poster's front cover is the face of the protagonist all blurred and duplicated. Her hands are covering her ears to show that she is trying to drown out the outside noise, and she is trying to achieve this through my music video with the way and use of drugs. Within the digipack, all the photos of my protagonist are isolated or alone. Within my video, she has no contact saves, which is evident in the drug dealer's number not being saved on her phone. This allows the audience to wonder if she has any friends or family,
as she is the only person in both my main product and ancillary texts.
I wanted this isolation to be a prominent theme within my promotion of my music video. Overall, I wanted the theme to highlight that she is not willing to find help for her problem and is now completely dependent on the drugs. You could argue that the only other personality in this music video is the drug and the effect it has. I tried to animate the drug by putting a smiley face on the LSD to show a full sense of security and that the drug is inviting just like a person can be. However, this drug becomes the antagonist in the story and corrupts the protagonist. We start to see a split personality in the protagonist, with the drug corrupting one side of her. This side is reflected with the use of Holly paint, showing it is the part of her that has been altered in a negative way. Slowly, the drug encompasses the protagonist, making herself to be the villain in the music video. I wanted the CD in the digipack to again be the smiley face of the drug, and the way that the CD is layered over the digipack reflects how the drug is dominant in her life and she is trapped behind it. The digipack reflects this in a tangible way. I got a lot of my inspiration for my digipack from James Blake's self-titled album. We can see the use of blurred imagery overlapping two images to show that he has conflicting personalities and they are trying to pull apart from each other. The use of dull and cold shades gives the buyer connotations of sadness and pain. Another inspiration of mine came from Hands Cannot Erase by Steven Wilson. I liked how they mixed two different textures together to make an effective and vibrant front cover. I also liked the use of colours within the front cover. Therefore, instead of using cold colours like James Blake's digipack, I decided to use more abstract colours to reflect the drug side of her, just like the Holly paint. However, I did dial down the colours and blurred them out so they weren't so strong and powerful, as I felt like this would not really reflect my character properly, as she is quite weak and easily controlled. To create my digipack front cover, I used Photoshop to layer my image. I made the flattened 3D look by layering the same photo over each other and colour correcting each one to a different colour and moving it slightly. I made the occupancy less on the colour layers to make them seem more blurred and dull. Within the digipack, I used InDesign to create the right format for the digipack. This software allowed me to put word formatting on top of my image so the buyer could have the lyrics included in the CD so they could sing along. This would help marketing because if the fans posted videos of them singing along to the songs on YouTube, it would be free advertising. What have you learned from your audience feedback?
My audience feedback was mostly positive, as they liked the way that the video had a protagonist which they could relate with. This made them more emotionally invested in the character and her story arc. They especially liked how the shots matched the audio, which was a major detail that I wanted to incorporate in my music video. In dubstep music, the drop is very important and exciting for the listener. This is paired with the visual aspects of the visual effects coming in at the same time, and makes the drop more emphasized and effective. They also liked the use of props and how even though they are meant to be negative, e.g. the drugs, it still looks attractive to the audience as the props are vibrant. They also enjoyed the visual aspects, especially the kaleidoscope effect, as they liked the use of colours and how it overlapped the clip of my protagonist. This reflects what's going inside of her head and makes the audience therefore feel closer to her. From my audience feedback, I have learnt that the combination of the music video imagery and the music should be connected, as it gives the most effective music video, as both elements are complementing each other.
How did you use media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages? In my research, I used a lot of social media platforms to see what was popular for my demographic and what type of people listen to what music. This allowed me to target my music video in a more personal way. My research concluded that teenage and young adults are listening to dubstep, usually in clubs or festivals. This is what inspired me to do a drug theme to video, as it is a huge part of the demographics culture, and the use and abuse of drugs is growing. It is dangerous as younger people are now experimenting with drugs without being educated on the effects. This is why I wanted my video to inform my audience of the potential risks. While filming, I used a variety of equipment. I experimented with using a Steadicam at the beginning of the shoot whilst the protagonist is singing. However, I learnt that this is very hard to balance the brakes properly and that the camera looked lopsided. Therefore, later on I switched to using a camera on a tripod and moved the camera around attached to it. I also used the tripod for most of the shoots within my video to create a more steady and professional look. I spent a lot of my time editing my music video as it had a lot of visually enhanced aspects to it. Most of this was done in Final Cut. I experimented with different filters and effects over my video and layered them up on top of each other to create a chaotic and distorted effect. A lot of my work was done using a key tool and changing up the settings till it looked effective. Overall, most of my effects were just trial and error till I decided what I liked. Later on in the film, my videos were altered using colour correction, which allowed me to change the colour of each clip. This was very effective and made the difference between reality and the effect of drugs more prominent. I also used different softwares to create visual effects. I used Photoshop for the drawn animation. I achieved this by exporting each frame of the clip which I wanted to alter and imported them one by one into Photoshop. From this, I simply drew the crosses onto each frame, changing the colour slightly each time and making the crosses slightly different. Once each frame was done, I imported the frames back into Final Cut in chronological order so it would create the clip again. I also used Photoshop while designing my advert to promote the album. Throughout the whole process, I have been blogging the research and events. This gave me a platform to voice my experience and show the stages that I went through to create my final piece. This was helpful, as if I got sidetracked, I could always look back at my blog and see what my initial ideas were and what my inspirations were, allowing me to come back and become more focused on my main themes and ideas.